Hello and welcome. This is Cultural Responsiveness Professional Development by Erica Anderson. Before taking the steps to make a plan, we must first understand the needs of each student. Each student has different and unique backgrounds than from their peers. Each student has different experiences and have different perspectives of things that we might not look at the same way. One of the biggest things is that we cannot stereotype the kids. No racial or ethnic stereotypes. What do I mean by that? For example, Asian American students are often stereotyped as all of them being high academic achievers. This is a big no-no, okay? Just because that is their stereotype doesn't mean that that's every student. No stereotypes. To engage the students fully, we need to know the students on an academic and individual level. We're going to start by asking them or asking the students or each other to explain their backgrounds a little bit, maybe their experiences. And if they're shy, allow them to do info cards at the beginning of a lesson to see what the students have experienced and what their backgrounds already are. That way you always have that information to refresh on. Now let's start to begin our plan. We must first plan for maintaining a positive climate that is safe and establishes mutual respect, trust, collaboration, collegiality, and support amongst those involved. We must first start by knowing that we cannot shed our cultural practices at the door when we enter our science classrooms. It is important that we bring our practices with us so that way we can learn from each other and each other's experiences. If we leave them at the door, it shows that we are scared of different cultures. We don't want to give that perspective. If it appears as though we're timid about it, then it might not be easy for students to open up about it. We need to feel confident. Even if you're unsure of a student's culture, don't be afraid to ask. Focus on the diversity of life practices, perspectives, values, and motivation that are correlated with these different students. Acknowledge the experiences and perspectives of the oppressed groups that are commonly excluded from mainstream academia. Now, let's start to talk about the developmental plan of culturally responsive teaching. You may be asking yourself, why is culturally responsive teaching important? Well, for many reasons, such as students get to learn from more interactive and collaborative and culturally conscious activities. Along with this teaching style helps to foster a sense of belonging for the students of any and all backgrounds, so no student feels excluded. And it has been proven to improve brain processing and student engagement, which is always what we're looking for in the realm of STEM. In order to implement culturally responsive teaching in your classrooms, there is no one way that you can do it. There are many different elements that you can implement in order to have a culturally responsive teaching and classroom style. Start by creating and developing authentic, caring relationships with your students. Let the students know that you care and that you're there for them, and that regardless of their backgrounds, that you're going to support them and teach them no matter what. Share your own background and experiences. It's okay if you've never had a cultural background or if you've never had your mind open to different experiences or cultures. Allow your students to do that for you. Allow them to talk about it. Allow them to share their experiences. And whatever you have experienced, feel free to talk about. It's okay. Along with examining the curriculum to identify where you can tie in cultural elements. There are many different ways that you can tie in cultural elements into science classrooms. Start by telling the students to identify a scientist or engineer that is from their country or from their background or has the same religion or ethnicity or started off in the same socioeconomic background, and look at how far they've come. Allow the students to explore. But also, in order to create this, you need to also explore cultural responsive teaching resources. And you can look at ones like EduTopia and Mathematica. Now, For engaging the diverse learners. Throughout this professional development, we've been talking about the importance of cultural responsive teaching. In order to do that, you have to implement a few different things, starting by getting to know your students, creating activities that are well thought out and organized, because when they're not, students know that, and it can sometimes give around love you don't care enough. So we don't want that. So ways that you can do it are through this. Integrate real world issues like current events and relate it back to the lesson. For example, you could have the students look up the country that their family is from to figure out the climate, okay? Or if there's been any other natural disasters or something, you can relate it back to the next generation science standards, which focuses on weather. Leverage the power of story. Many cultures come from story backgrounds. They like to tell stories and myths and tales and fables. Allow your students to pass that on and see how you can relate that to the STEM field, specifically the science field, which I'm sure any good science teacher can do, which we all can do. Gamify the lessons. We are in a huge technology realm society. We use technology every day, and so do the students. You might as well implement them into your lesson. So use games on the computer, like Book It, to help students learn and interact with one another. Also allow for media that depicts positive range of cultures. Find age-appropriate media outlets from different cultures and languages to use in your curriculum. These outlets can be used to teach a differing perspective on a current or historical event within that culture. In regard to science, let them find scientists, mathematicians, or engineers from their own culture. Throughout this development plan, I made sure to provide adequate resources and choices for the teachers to implement, along with why it is important to use culturally responsive teaching and learning in the classroom. As I was working through the plan, I reflected on my own teaching and how there are a lot of ways that I need to go back and implement cultural elements within my own lessons. It is important to reflect on how I can improve my own teaching throughout this development plan in order to help other teachers. Throughout it, it promotes collaboration because the teachers need to work with the students to better understand their cultural differences and perspectives. I hope this was helpful in educating everyone on cultural responsive teaching and learning. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Here are my resources. Have a good day.